Wonderful.
Are you
I'm impressed.
comfortable?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I'm not one known for comparing studios or these artistically done things, but I sit looking at them. They are impressive.
Okay, so this morning we're talking everything education. I know that you're home, you're worried, you don't know what is happening to your schooling in these times. And the Honorable Minister of Education is here to answer all the questions. Let me first ask you how you feel as Education Minister with the academic calendar at all levels in turmoil because of COVID-19.
I put on different hats. I feel it as a parent. I feel it as a policymaker. And I feel it as a worker within the educational system, like how the lecturers feel, the teachers feel, the heads of schools, how the students feel. You have to be a student and you see the turmoil, and especially a student about writing your final exams. So it isn't easy. But what is the other side? The other side is to allow the kids to be in school and the teachers to be teaching, and for the virus to have a fertile breeding ground for propagation of itself. Like I said, the virus doesn't move. It's the human being that moves it. If we all stop moving, the virus dies. So the only thing the virus wants is for there to be normal human interaction so that it can grow, it can fester, it can affect many more people, and can cause more havoc to both the person and the society.
I know that there has been some effort from your ministry to resort to online learning as an alternative, but there have been complaints. I have spoken with NUGS and other student bodies who have said accessibility to the internet is a challenge, cost of data is a challenge, and its efficiency is another challenge. Have these concerns come to you, and how have you responded to them?
I'm sure it is a reflection of the development of the society. And we are well aware that even before COVID, there were accessibility problems with data. It's not every part of the country that has 4G or even 3G. It's not every part of the country that even has mobile telephony connection. So we know. And we have to make do with what we have. We have to be very, very practical and pragmatic about our living circumstance. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't shout that you have it. It was interesting that I was monitoring the newsreels and I found out that the Americans, the Senate of the USA, is deciding to probably appropriate billions to ensure that fiber optic gets into the rural areas because they don't exist. This problem you are talking about exists in the United States. It exists in the UK. Our bit is better coverage, there's better coverage in those countries than ours. So it's a problem, accessibility. And the Ministry of Communication, in tandem with government plans and processes, is making it better. If you heard just last week, the Ministry of Communication made available even more bandwidth to MTN and Vodafone to just carry traffic. So it's a huge problem that government is dealing with. And I think that government will continue to deal with those problems till we are free of it.
Do you think that it has eased a bit? I mean, from when the online education started, since the outbreak of COVID-19, have the complaints gotten better? Have they reduced?
People are living with these realities. People are living with it, and they are making do as best as they can. I'm not saying all the problems have been resolved. Even when we're pre-COVID, even educational infrastructure did not exist everywhere. And the quality educational infrastructure didn't exist everywhere. So it is not as if we are not aware of the problem. It's that government is making frantic and efforts, it's making calculated, planned efforts to relieve us of these burdens. That is why we have all these infrastructure, educational infrastructure going on in the country. And then COVID comes. And then education has to move into the 21st century automatically. And the country is not even there. Businesses, the lifeblood of the economy, are not able to communicate or telecommute or work as they expect to, even in this COVID for. And we have to accept the fact that that is the reality of the country and make do with what we have. That is why in my ministry, we are not only thinking about bringing out online programs. We are thinking about using television. And I must say, Nana, that some other TV networks have scrambled channels for us for free as part of their corporate social responsibility. And we would and say on this station that we are still looking for more TV stations to collaborate with Ghana Education Service to show more approved programs, to show more certified programs. I know that most stations are doing something on education, but whether what you are doing on education is in line with the curriculum Ghana Education Service is deploying is a different ballgame.
But have you identified these stations and
I know that Ghana Education
monitored?
Service, Ghana Education Service has written to all media companies that if you want to deploy educational content, come and let's jaw and see the content you want to deploy, whether it is in line with our curriculum. I think that every responsible station, that's the first thing you have to do. Okay. If you want to advertise for a drug on your station, the first thing you say, has it been FDA certified? Have you got an approval from FDA before you can advertise for the drug? If not, a responsible station like yours wouldn't advertise the drug. Likewise, if you are airing a program, you have to ask yourself, is it in tandem? Is it in line? Is it approved? Is it certified as befitting of the curricula that we run in this country?
Okay.
If not, you probably will be causing more harm than good.
Okay, let's still talk about the online education. And it may be a useful stopgap measure for urban dwellers and persons who have access to internet. But how about those areas where there are students who do not even have classrooms to sit in to study, not to talk of getting access to a computer and getting internet? How are you reaching those ones in these times?
Thank you. That is my opening statement. We live within Ghana. Those areas that have no access, is it because of COVID? No. It is because the mobile telecom companies probably don't see the profitability in going to those areas, and they cover where they will make their money first. That is why in this last 3 years, government has borrowed the money and has extended rural telephony to over 800 communities, whereas in the previous 4 years, only about 20-something was done. So government knows the problem. If it doesn't make business sense, the businessman will not go there. So what has happened in other countries that Ghana is following is that the government sees the black spots in the telecommunications sector, and the government invests in that so that the companies can ride on the back of government for free. It is not the free that they are riding on that worries government. It's the businesses and the opportunities they will create where government offers those opportunities. That's what government's interest. The Ghanaians who can get online, who can switch on, whose life can be improved. Because when communication gets into the rural areas, it is not only for school. It's for the ordinary way of life. People will get information, people can get educated, people can even track farming, when to sell their produce, the market prices, when to harvest. There's a lot of things that benefit the community when they are connected. And that is why that is government's reason why it is rolling out all this rural telephony in the black spot areas. So we have to encourage government to do more. But hey, Nana, Rome was not built in a day. Sewa, Nana Sewa. Rome was not built in a day. And I hope that government's efforts will continue. Example, just last Sunday, the president announced that they're going to build 88 hospitals. Can you think about it? There are 88 districts in this country without access to hospital. Do
you think that is feasible in a year?
Which is the feasible?
That you can build 88 hospitals in a year.
That's not what the president said.
What did he say? He will build 88 district hospitals.
Yes, we said we are going to build
6 regional
hospitals.
So
when we start the hospitals, it will be constructed in a year. We all know that project preparations and making money, going to parliament, getting loan is a problem. It will take some time before it accrues. Then project management, if you don't project management, you might not start all the hospitals day one. You might start.
But we are told that they will be completed in a year.
It is not a year from when he made the announcement. Obviously, there's no money that you know that has been, Parliament has approved. But when the construction starts, it will finish in a year. That's what he's saying.
Oh, I see.
When you say that you build, when the Chinese says that they will build a hospital, 1,000-bed hospital in a week, they didn't complete all the hospitals that they built in Wuhan in a week. But what they started constructing, they did it in a week. It's slightly different. When you start construction, you construct the hospital within a year. It's different from, I'll do everything in a year. Then you calculate 26th. The president said that on the 26th day of April 2020. So the 26th or 25th day of April 2021, you send your camera crews around the country and you see some hospitals finished, some about finishing, and some at different stages. And you come back to your studio and say, oh, the president's promise is wrong. No. You have to ask where you go. When did you start? If it started in June, you expect it to complete in June. If you started in October, you expect to complete in October.
Okay. I want us to still talk about access to education, especially the online education. We know that these problems have existed long before COVID-19, but as it stands, that you have made learning online easier for those of the students who have access to it. How are you reaching them as at now, those who do not have it at all? Because there are those who didn't have it before COVID-19. There are those who had access to education but never had access to the internet.
Are you done?
Yes.
My answer is simple.
What I want to know what you are doing
That's
now.
what I'm saying. My answer is simple. We are not making access to education only online. In my ministry, when we did the press brief, we said on TV. And we even started the TV before we came up with the online programs.
But you know there are people who do not have access to TV.
Now you said online, no access. Now you said TV access. And the third ambit we rolled out said by the time school reopens, there will be access to radio as well. As we speak, we are working with GBC and other studios. We are recording. What happened was that the KG to junior high school level, they were left with 1 week in school for vacation. And school reopens on the 4th, 2 weeks. And school reopens on the 4th of May. So they are in their normal vacation period. The plan that GES is working out is that when school reopens, by the time school reopens, if we are not able to reopen on the 4th of May or 5th of May, then the programs that we are recording to let academic studies continue would come out, in the sense that we'll have TV sessions like your studio has TV sessions for kindergarten. We'll have TV sessions for kindergarten, TV sessions for primary, TV sessions for junior high school. There are already TV sessions for the senior high schools. We would have radio sessions for the kindergartens, radio sessions for the TV, for the primary, radio sessions for junior high school. So this is ongoing as we speak. The content is being produced. We have had other benefactors coming to us and say, oh, we have these programs that are in line with your curriculum. We will be able to give it for you for free for this period of COVID. We are compiling all data, we are updating them, and we will start rolling it out immediately that we finish with the content productions. And we'll come back. That's why we need even more radio stations, even more TV stations, and even more mobile telephone communications to zero rate. I must put on record that Vodafone and MTN, the largest coverage with the networks, they have zero rated all educational content. In that, when you are on the system and it's to do with education, it is free. You don't pay. So that access cost is not there. But you have to have the device to get on there. You have to have the connection in your community to have. Don't forget that the Ministry of Communication has built a lot of community information centers around the country. All these are being made available so that education can continue. We haven't gotten it 100%, but we are working towards it.
Have you and your colleagues sat down to discuss a tentative time by which you can open schools when children can go back to schools? Because there are so many kids watching, students watching, parents watching, and they are confused when they're going back to school.
I share in their confusion. And can only tell them that government would act in their best interest. The easiest, the commonest place that infection spreads is on school grounds. If ask any parent, the infections children bring from school home. Mind you, in Ghana, most grandparents are looking after grandchildren. And we know that this COVID affects more elderly people than kids. So kids can harbor, kids can show mild symptoms and can get healthy. But there will be transporters from the school grounds to the homes to affect their grandparents. Government must see to it that doesn't occur. If, so while me and you are here, we hear that a popular school in Accra here, there has been outbreak of COVID, and you're a parent, what's going to happen?
You'll be worried.
Everybody will run to take the child out of the school. So we shouldn't use the circumstance of no schooling to think that it is in government interest not for school to continue. That is why in one of my first TV interviews, I stated for a fact that we parents who gave birth to our own children, now the children are with us for 24/7 and we are shouting. That is why I said, me and you, we should thank our teacher. We should know the burdens that we have given to the teacher to mold our future treasures for us. And every parent now should be thankful to a teacher. You know that the work the teacher has been doing in the 8 or 10 hours that you are busy at work is not an easy job. You and your kids at home alone, you are crying. The teacher whose class has 50, 60, 70, 80 kids, how is that teacher managing? If Ghanaians have not thought about it, this is the time to think about it. And this is the time to show appreciation to every teacher. This is the time that when school finally reopens, you make time to go and visit your class teacher and say thank you for looking after my child. But still to the point, schools will be reopened when it is safe to do so.
Is there data that you're working with which will help you to make such a decision?
Since we closed schools, Ghana Education Service, National Council for Tertiary Education, the universities. When you come to my office, I can show you a compendium of pamphlets and papers and proposals that have come to me from various universities and Ghana Education Service. We would take the decisions, the president would, and the cabinet will make the decision when it is most appropriate to do so. But
based on the data you're working with and the predictions you're making, the trajectory of COVID-19 tentatively, when do you think they'll go back to school?
Has anybody been able to tell you when all schools will be open in any country in the world as we speak?
Well, no, but you're working with data, so you should have some information. What we are saying is that
you have to observe the data. You have to observe the data. We in Ghana believe that almost all our cases are imported or through contacts of people who brought it down. So if it's not somebody who's traveled from abroad, somebody who's traveled from another West African country, right? Even if we open schools, there are a lot of our students are foreign students in our universities now. What plans are we making if they are going to come back to school? Are we going to test them and quarantine them?
You should tell us.
That's what I'm saying.
What plans are there?
The government will tell you when it has made a decision on it. I'll not come here and give you things that has not been decided on, because there are a lot of things. I've got papers from some people who are saying that universities should be open in stages. I've got papers from some people who said, let's open school and let SSC students go and write their exams. But the exams is an international exam. So if WAEC International is not ready, even if you open schools, they are not doing anything. So there are a lot of hoops and loops that we have to go through. And we'll make the decision. And the decision cannot be just go back to school. Even, you have to think about it. If schools are going to reopen, you would expect Verica buckets and sanitizers and soaps and masks to be made available to them. You expect the schools to have been sprayed of COVID. These are things that we should do before we get to schools. We even open schools, right?
Yeah.
Because we do recall that one of the first cases happened in a university on our campus, that over 100 students had to be quarantined. So it is just most likely that when you go back to school and you haven't taken those decisions, the disease, the virus, will start breeding amongst healthy population. And one or two can succumb And that will lead to a panic situation. So we have to get on top of the virus. We have to get ahead of the virus and make sure that it is safe to take your best treasure you bring in life, that is your kids, to school.
Okay. When we finally are able to deal with COVID-19 and students go back to school, will you be instituting remedial measures to make up for the lost time?
That's what I'm saying. We can't come. Minister of Education cannot come up with an announcement. Schools are reopened. And that is it. No. We have to come up with measures. If it's to do with lost time, what are we going to do with it? And a lot of things. So we have to think, and we are doing the thinking now.
What about exams like WASSCE? We've been told by the Ghana Education Service that WASSCE will be replaced with university entrance exams.
Who said that?
At the Ghana Education Service.
The Ghana Education Service cannot say.
Okay.
Let me put it on record.
Please.
And they haven't said so. It cannot say. It's not Ghana Education Service that determines how somebody goes to university.
Okay.
Right? That is for the universities and government to decide that in this country called Ghana, this is the system we would use for entrance into our. And we are in talks with the vice chancellors. And we have a standing committee that is working on different ways in which is possible. If the COVID doesn't relent, we don't get on top of the COVID, and there's no WAEC exams, can the universities reopen and admit first-year students when nobody has done an exam? No. So there has to be an acceptable assessment method for which we can all agree that if we use this assessment method, the universities ought or must admit students based upon that assessment method and take it from there. In UK, more advanced, better resourced, they've decided that there's not going to be any A-levels this year in UK.
Are you going to take the same decision?
They have decided. The first announcement that came with COVID, before they even closed schools, they decided that this year we've cancelled. The UK decided that because of COVID, one of the first announcements that came, we've postponed our local government elections. Because probably they foresaw that it's not going to be an easy pass. Right? So what did they do? They didn't even have an alternative. It is now that they are working out an acceptable assessment for. And you know what they said? They said the assessment that they are going to do, if you are a student and you are not happy with it, the following year, when A-level comes back, you can sit for the A-level. That is UK. Much more resourced, better resourced than us. What we are saying is that we have to agree among stakeholders that this is the assessment method we are going to use. If we can't write West Africa Exams Council because it's international, we cannot do it. Those who are writing the baccalaureate and the GCSEs, it's cancelled. You don't have that option on the table. If Ghana is COVID-free and the other West African states are not, can WAEC then conduct a Ghana exam for us? It's a possibility. Which I know that we are in talks with WAEC on that matter. If the COVID will prevent us from congregating to write a Ghana exams, do we have an assessment in place that we can use as a proxy? And yes, Ghana Education Service already submits continuous assessment of all kids. They've been doing that in the last 20 or so years to West Africa Exams Council, which they use statistical method to make it appropriate to serve as 30% of the final exam result. Are we able to use that as a proxy? We will come to that decision. And once that decision has come and we are reopening schools, then we'll be able to tell final year students that go finish, you'll be writing a Ghana exam that will give you entrance to the university. Go finish your year, but there's not going to be an exam since the assessments have already been collected before the COVID. We are going to use the assessment, and if you are not happy, you can write your exams. If we can't do any, can we allow the final year students then to do national service before they go into university? When I did A-level, I did a national service before I go to the university. Because 3 years prior to us, there was so much, or 4 years before that, there was so much upheaval I did A-level in 87. I think around somewhere in 83. There had been so much upheaval in the educational system that we were forced to do a sixth form national service before we went to university.
Right.
So that there's nothing that the nation hasn't gone through. And no, there's nothing that we haven't found solutions that are practical to live with. So we'll live within the reality.
Honorable Minister, about a month ago, you were on Kokoko with Kwame Sefakai, and you disclosed that should the novel coronavirus persist, the government might consider replacing WASSCE with university entrance exam.
That's what I'm saying.
You said that government intends to consult, well, you've said that relevant stakeholders.
Yes.
So this is something you're considering.
Yes,
the
we
entrance
can only
exam.
consider. That's what I'm saying. If you have option 1, option 2, option plan A, plan B, plan C, depending upon how the virus behaves, and your consultation with stakeholders.
So a month ago, you disclosed that it's been a month now.
And we are still in the thralls.
But we've been told that we know how the virus is working. We have a grips of it. So you should have something.
What do you mean by you have a grips?
The president told us that he lifted the ban on the lockdown because
he didn't lift the ban on restrictions and public gatherings, did he?
He didn't.
Yeah. So it tells you that the lockdown was for a purpose.
Yes.
That purpose, in fact, Ghana is probably
that
only
was just
country.
to buttress my point. We kind of have an idea how the virus works.
Now your quotation reaffirms the point. I said we have been thinking since we locked down about the options. We won't wait and be confronted with something we haven't thought through. So that's why I told you, we have even a standing committee chaired by Professor Yanka, working with the universities in coming up with alternatives. Well, somebody brought a paper from one university that said we should go to online assessment. How would I accept an online assessment when I know some people cannot get online? So these are all options we consider.
I want us to talk about that. There are some schools that are conducting the exams online. Students have spoken against it.
There's no public school.
Okay.
There is no public school conducting any exams online.
Really?
Yes. Some universities, in rolling out their virtual learning, are doing continuous assessment. I think the only university that was advanced in that was KNUST. That was saying that we're going to do mid-semesters and things online. We would have to assess that based upon what really happened and if students were left out.
How about junior high school students? Will they write BC?
They are home. They are normal holidays.
But will they write BC?
That's what I'm saying. They are home. They are on their normal holidays. And they were supposed to go back 4th of May. Their normal BEC was supposed to be in June. What does it mean? Students will have to congregate and write. So if the COVID is there, if there's a ban on gatherings, like there's a ban on gatherings, it can't happen.
I hope it gives some clarification to
the clarification is clear. We know that there exists still a ban on all gatherings. In fact, the 25%, the 25 people who can meet are only for funerals. If you're going to conduct a private burial, that not more than 25 people is the prescription. But apart from that, all gatherings, all social gatherings are banned. That is the point. So if they are banned, didn't you read the pre-tertiary teacher unions when we closed down schools and we said BEC and SSC students or WASSCE students should stay? The government's thought was that it was left with a few weeks to the exams. Let them stay and let them do the exams. The unions, the teachers, complain that they are also in the society and they can also get infected, so we should close the schools. That's why we need a broad stakeholder consultation before we move.
So how will placement into senior high schools be done if there's no exams for the BEC?
That's what I'm saying, that we have assessments, that if we can use the assessment of policy and we decide that that is the only way that we have to do it, we have to get there and decide.
But will that be sufficient the assessment that you talk about?
The coronavirus has brought us a lot of things that we never thought about doing.
So will that be sufficient to test the aptitude of these students as compared to a full-blown exam?
When that child, when I was going to school, we did our exit exam in primary 6. And nearly 40% of my cohort did not get into secondary school because they failed their exams at primary 6. Now, government decided to move the exit exam from primary 6 to BEC. Those kids were promoted from primary to junior high school. They went through up to the age of 50 before they did BEC. Meanwhile, if they had done the exit exam at primary school, a lot more wouldn't have gotten education.
I see.
A lot more wouldn't have gotten education. So that is why ultimately, when you look at the SDG goal, the right to secondary education by 2030 is for all. So whether you like it or not, whether you do an exams or not, you have to keep that child in school to finish secondary education. That ups the level of knowledge in the community. And we think that is the earliest time a child should leave schooling. So we are improving things. It was the age of 12. It has come to the age of 15. Very soon, it will go to the age of 18, where all kids must stay in school. And your exams will not be an exam that throws you out of the schooling system. It will be an exam that will tell you which school you are going to go next to. And that is an improvement. So the fact that somebody will be last when we conduct a class 1 test, meanwhile that person will find himself or herself in class 2. If there is an exam, that person will leave the school because worry. That is why it is good to keep a child in school and not necessarily kick the child out at an age that is inappropriate, like we do now.
Do you foresee COVID-19 having a material impact on education generally?
It has a huge impact on the society. Now, parents who have their kids at home will have to find out who is going to work and who has to stay home and look after the child. I had a discussion with a grandparent yesterday. He's scared to let the house helps come and look after his grandchildren.
Why?
Because he doesn't know where the house helps are coming from. And maybe they will be bringing the COVID to him. And he's going to die before he sees his grandchildren live. It says, no house helps are coming to my house. Me and my wife, the grandies, are looking after our grandchildren. And I'm saying that if you open school and that child goes to school and goes to bring COVID as a career to affect the grandparent, you are causing even more societal harm. Right?
Yeah. So
all those decisions will be taken with a scientist, with data in mind, and we'll decide. There are risks in life. Risk returns rewards. So we will go through that.
Okay. Now, I want us to talk about some controversial policy decisions. And I want us to start with the public university bill. It has met a lot of resistance from some universities and the public. It doesn't appear that you have the buy-in of the major stakeholders. Just yesterday, I saw a release from UTAG, and I have it here, and they, among other things, say that the bill will encroach on academic freedoms by putting the universities and their staff, unions and administration.
You had it from UTAG?
They have. They released a statement.
When?
They released a statement yesterday.
Who signed it?
I'm going to, let me, hold on a second. So, the committee members, Professor Kwejo Apieje, Tua, School of Law Chairman, Professor
So it's
Idiko.
not UTAG, it's some people.
Well,
yes,
it's a UTAG committee. It's a UTAG committee. University Teachers Association of Ghana, the University of Ghana branch. So it's that branch of UTAG. And they also say that the objectives of the bill are unclear. I know that you've had interviews and you have made these things clear, that government has made it clear that it will not encroach on the freedom of the university. But clearly, you do not have the buy-in of some of these people.
And I'll say this simply. It was the University of Ghana that we launched the tertiary education policy. That was done with all stakeholders. That was launched over a year ago, University of Ghana. I would also say that that draft bill out of that policy was given to all universities. People don't understand how we make bills. Let me explain.
Please do.
The policy was done because we had found gaps in what existed. And the policy was approved and was circulated. And out of the policy, a draft bill has emanated. That draft bill has been given to everybody. The responses that we got from that draft bill was incorporated into the bill. Most of it was incorporated. And then the bill that has gone to Parliament has been again given to UTAG. It should, one, tell you that government is not hiding anything. So if government says that this bill is not supposed to encroach on academic freedom, and you are members of UTAG, and you have identified a part that may infringe on the freedom, you write a submission. And that is why Parliament, this time not even executive, Parliament is calling for memos from all interest holders. If you say, you can easily say, oh, Minister of Education, even though I have records of everybody who we consulted, I do keep records. It's not that simple. If you say you have seen, yesterday I had a long discussion with one of the most vehement critics of the public university bill. Okay. When we finished going through with the tertiary education policy and the bill, then he realized that, so the bill is just the lifting of things that almost existed with a few changes from the various university acts into that.
When you explain the bill to us.
In the discussions, then he said, that lecturer then says, why are universities, why is tech doing religions and history? Why can't government ask the universities to stay in their core mandate? I said, the bill talks about the general things. It doesn't talk about the day-to-day running of even the university. That is done. The day-to-day running of a university is by the university statutes. The statutes are done by the university council. And this bill still talks about the statutes being done by the university council. Nana, in 2012, I was bringing a copy somewhere here. In 2012, Parliament passed a law to regulate all colleges of education. Right. That was under Professor Mills. In 2016, under President Mahama, Parliament passed a law that regulated all technical universities. Why? Because those laws don't regulate individual universities. Right? So now, if government is setting up a technical university, all government needs to do is to go to Parliament and say that this is the mandate of the technical university that I'm setting up. And we change the schedule of the bill because the regulatory framework, the financial principles they should work with, the accountability principles, it's the same for all universities. It's the same. No two universities have virtually seriously differentials on how to constitute a university council. But there are some university councils, would you believe it, that Committee for the Defense of the Revolution is still a member of the council by law. Would you believe that? When I say it, you didn't come probably to even meet ACDR. No. And it's still, they were the PNDC time, the AFRC time, the people who were the operatives and the parachikis of the government. There are laws now that says that appointment of the whole university council is by the PNDC. Meaning the one who took after the PNDC now is the president, executive power. So should the president be the appointer? There are certain things that exist on university council's laws that are no longer there. Right? So the decision was that either we go individually, and there are about 12 universities, Nana. We have to go there and individually amend as a result of the tertiary education policy, or let's make it all one policy that every university would abide by apart from your mandate. Your mandate would let you decide on your council statutes, and then you operate your university from that. How a vice chancellor is appointed is the same in the universities. It's a search party. It is not changed from the law. So those who are saying that it is encroaching on, they have to identify the clause that they have found, and then they make a case, this time not even to me, to Parliament, and say, oh, this would encroach on academic freedom. And I think Parliament would listen and say, how then do we change it to make it better? That is more important. What probably is not right is if you haven't read the tertiary education policy that was launched, that was done by universities and vice chancellors and stakeholders in that sense, that was passed. And then the bill that has come out of the policy, right? The bill is directly out of the policy. And then you look at the policy, and the policy has clauses. It's about, let's say, 100 clauses. You have identified that clause 4 is what is inimical to university.
Well, they have stated these clauses, which yes, they have. So when we come back from when we come back from the break,
if they have stated,
yes, they have.
Parliament has called. It is not about making noise. Parliament has advertised that if you have any memorandum on this publication, submit it to them.
I'm sure
and then they will invite you.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. But it is true that a friend in need is a friend indeed. We know that you miss your favorite meals from our menu, and that's why we've partnered with Jumia Foods to bring you our tasty meals straight to your doorstep. Find us on the Jumia Foods app or website and order for all your favorites, from starters to desserts, healthy smoothies at your convenience, whether at home or in your office. We also have attractive outside catering packages for groups of 10 or more to be served right at your home or office. Call or WhatsApp us on 050-163-1254 for reservations or for more information. Remember to stay safe and wash your hands under running water and use alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Alisa Hotels, a mark of distinction. I'm here with the Honorable Minister of Education, Matthew Opoku Prempeh. We'll be back shortly.
There are 5 new cases.
Wash hands with soap and water.
Do whatever it takes.
DSTV nam international any African news channel so Emma uni wabusia anya yemu ahotoso.
Business world across West.
The only brass amunu besi no pepepe. Na ya de aduru abobo ano dadaada.
Post restriction.
The ma di kan ate de akoso ewo wiase afana ba bia. Da bia. Eni DSTV ntina. Niema hunhu de akoso nyina.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus, we all need to do the 5. 1. Follow these steps to wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 40 seconds. 2. Cover your mouth with your bent elbow whenever you cough or sneeze. 3. Avoid touching your face. 4. Avoid crowded places. Keep a safe distance from other people. 5. Stay home if you can, especially if you have any of the symptoms. For more information, visit www.who.int.
There are many ways to get around, but there's only one way to pay.
Momo?
Sure.
So many styles to choose, but there's only one sure way to pay.
Momo? Yes.
There's so many you can buy, but there's only one sure way to pay.
Momo?
Yes.
To share my name.
There's so much variety, but there's only one sure way to pay. There's so many ways to get together, but there's only one sure way to pay. Got a payment to make? Use MTN Momo and enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions. Live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. Just Momo it. We day for you everywhere you go.
Before me is a demonstration of the damp-proof paint. Someone will ask, why the basket? The basket because we have an adage in Ghanaian language that says you cannot use the basket to fetch water. But with Easy Damp-proof, you can. It's very efficient. It's very potent. It is good for your foundations, especially for the roof, for our fish ponds, for our swimming pools, and it's healthy. It is not chemical, so you are safe. Your children are safe. And everybody who goes into the swimming pool is also safe. You can give Easy Paint a call on 0243 707696. We are opposite the Abeka Allied Filling Station and adjacent to the Shell Filling Station.
Evenings in my house is basa, and it's all because our internet data just gets finished when we don't expect it. Digital doomsaw. Meanwhile, next door at Kofi's house, everything is working perfectly. What at all does he have that we don't have?
Maybe her neighbor has Teledata ICT. Teledata doesn't limit how much data you can download or upload. Give us a call at 0302-211-299 or stop in at teledataict.com. Teledata ICT. Life online.
Welcome back to the show. This is GH Today. I am Sewa. I'm here. I'm in the studios with the Honorable Minister for Education, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and also Member of Parliament for the Menchia constituency. So there's an awareness notification from Lifeboy on our channels. I'm sure that you have seen it. And it's some education on how COVID-19 is transmitted. Now, the virus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets from an infected person and by touching surfaces that are contaminated. And so remember to keep yourself and your family safe by practicing good hygiene, which includes washing your hands with soap and running water. We also know that a friend in need is a friend indeed. We know that you miss your favorite meals from our menu, and that's why we've partnered with Jumia Foods to bring you our tasty meals straight to your doorstep. Find us on the Jumia Food apps or website and order all your favorites from starters to desserts, healthy smoothies at your convenience, whether at home or in the office. We also have attractive outside catering packages for groups of 10 or more to be served right at your home or office. You can call or WhatsApp us on 050161 631254 for reservations or for more information. Remember to stay safe and wash your hands under running water and use alcohol-based hand sanitizers. Alisa Hotels, a mark of distinction. Okay. Let's continue with our conversation. We're talking about the Public Universities Bill and the fact that you've not been able to get the buy-in of all your stakeholders. Are you working on that? It is important that you get all of them on board. No?
We never complete dialoguing with stakeholders till everything is complete. That's what I said. Some may just be a misunderstanding. And I would entreat everybody who wants to contribute that it is not a shouting match. It's a fact match, in the sense that the bill is out there. Parliament has published the bill. Parliament has invited. I remember when we were doing the University of Ghana bill, I was a member of Parliament in 2010. Even when the bill was being passed, on the floor of the House, there was the University of Ghana management. When it gets to a point that we don't understand, they will call us out. They will go and explain issues. That is how bills have been done. And there is no bill that you would probably get 100% support before you take it to the floor of Parliament. That is why it is the duty of Parliament to hear, even for those who have brought memos, to hear from them again and ensure that if there's any misconception, if there's any misunderstanding, if there's any place where there's lack of understanding, they will call me as a minister to come and defend government policy. They will listen to stakeholders and say, hey, minister, don't you think if we do this way, it's better? And we will do the best way for Ghana. It's not about Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
But it is absolutely necessary that you get UTAG on board, don't you agree?
That's what I'm saying, that if I show you some messages from UTAG members who have been part of this discussion, you'll be surprised. Even though they still acknowledge that there are other areas we still have to work on. It's a work in progress.
Okay. So this memo that I talk about from UTAG, have you received it? They list the clauses that they...
You said they came yesterday, so I haven't. And I know that tomorrow, the UTAG informs me that the president has invited them to the Jubilee House. Last week, Friday, the president invited Nooks. And I think this Thursday...
Not the yesterday's one that I talked about. So in 2018, when the bill was drafted...
That's what I'm saying that. We have been working with UTAG. I met the whole of UTAG in Cape Coast, in Winneba, for 3 and 4 hours, question by question. And I assured them that we are still in the drafting stage of the bill, different drafts. So their contribution would be incorporated. The team that does that, let me finish, Nana. The team that does that are not sitting in the Ministry of Education. They are sitting in the National Council for Tertiary Education. All big professors of universities and things like that. Mami Sewa, the fact of the matter is that when the bill comes, there will still be 1 or 2 areas that there's not a general agreement, right? If I am not the one being fair, or cabinet is the one being fair, it goes to Parliament. Parliament then invites you, without me. Come, what is your problem? What do you have? You say clause 3, like I said, clause by clause. You said clause 3 is the one that you find difficult. Why? What is your explanation? So if we modify it to this way, does this satisfy your thing? Yes, then we move on.
But the issues they raised, they are still in the bill.
I'm not sure you capture what I'm saying.
I do, but I'm trying to find out what was done about the concerns that they raised.
If I should also bring my phone and I should read like you are doing, I don't want to do that. If I should bring my phone and read, you would understand precisely that what they have brought now is not all that they brought in 2018. It is more than that. And then I've got messages that, we know that A, B, C, you have taken care of all that, but we still have some problems. That would be dealt with. There's not to wait about that. It has to be dealt with.
Let's move on. Let's talk about free senior high school. How's the implementation of that going?
We have been in the country for the last 3 years. And you understand that it's gone very, very well.
Would you or can you assure us that the financing of free senior high school will not be affected in any way, in any way, as we are battling COVID-19?
Mama Sewa, before we launched free senior high school, your ilks, media, had gotten in that propaganda going. Propaganda started by NDC. We didn't see any money in the budget because the budget had been run in March. We didn't see any lines that they say how are you going to finance free senior? Where are you going to get the money from? If after 3 years of successful execution of free senior high school by His Excellency the President, you are asking me this question, I would ask, the last 2 years, has it been financed?
But we are not in ordinary times. I'm asking you in the wake of COVID-19.
In the wake of COVID-19, if we are reading, every country is rather even stimulating the economy, not cutting services. In COVID-19, His Excellency the President says there's free water. In COVID-19, even when there was cholera in 2014, 2015, that killed over 200 Ghanaians. We didn't get free water from that government. Now there's free water. In COVID-19, electricity bills are halved. When we're doing doomso, we're still having an escalation in our electricity prices. That is good governance for you. That's why I'm saying that in COVID-19, when people are hard-pressed, we are giving food rations. We are supplying hot meals. When we were doing doom previously, did we get that? So Ghanaians voted for a government that should improve things. And this government has done precisely so. If we had not improved the economy, could we have found money to save 50% electricity? If we had not improved the economy, could we have found money to save free water? If we have not improved the economy, would we have been able to pay for the free senior high school. If we had not improved the economy, would we have initiated the largest infrastructure projects for senior high schools ever in the country? No. We have precisely improved the economy. That is why, even more than anything, in the advent of COVID, our president has been the one people are quoting all over the world. He showed a leadership that you might not understand. That in the whole of Africa, even America, are not doing enhanced contact tracing like we are doing it. Just this week, last week, the governor of New York, the largest state, the economically bankroller of America, said that he was not even aware about contact tracing. But in Ghana, the reason why the president has been able to lift lockdown and other countries went into lockdown for months is precisely because we were chasing the virus.
Okay, but Honorable Minister, I mean, we all know that COVID-19 will have an impact on the economy.
We haven't run away from it.
I am only asking if it will not affect funding of the program.
What is your interest?
Of course, I want to see children go to school.
And they would go to school.
Okay. Let's talk about the double track system. It has been heavily criticized. I want to know how far we are with that. And you told us that it's a temporary measure.
Again, you buy into propaganda.
I am not buying into propaganda. I am only asking you questions on the minds of the ordinary. I am not.
Your studio should
is...
inform, educate, and entertain. And I'm saying you are buying into propaganda. And ask me why am I saying that?
Go on.
There are 500,000 Ghanaians who qualify to go. For the best schools, it's about 395. The schools are oversubscribed because in Ghana here, nobody forces a child to go to a school the child doesn't want. All over the world, secondary education, you attend your locality, the school that is there.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
So, a school in Kumasi, called Kumasi Secondary Technical School, near Opoku roundabout, Santasi roundabout. 22,000 students in Ghana from all areas of Ghana decided to apply that school as their first choice of school, when the school can only admit 1,300. Right? What do we do? What do we do? We live in a universe that people will tell you international best practice. There is no international university worth its salt now that doesn't run double track, even though that is not the name they call it. They run fall admissions and summer winter admissions. People go to school in January and some start in September. How do you think they make it? They are making full use of the infrastructure and not leaving anything to waste. In the old system, when we had 3 terms, a child stayed at home 5 months of the year. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of the year. In the new system, the child will stay home a total of 6 months of the year.
Okay.
Let me finish. Let me finish and explain to Ghanaians.
Okay, please.
Because there are some people you didn't even talk about who are saying we should never stop the double track.
No, but I mean, I don't know if you have seen multiple polls by Afrobarometer, the University of Ghana, all showing that majority of Ghanaians do not like the double track system. But they are polls. I didn't conduct these polls.
Are those Ghanaians, were those Ghanaians asked?
These are public opinions, not propaganda.
If it was your child and government said she should stay at home for let somebody go, how would you say?
I am not criticizing double track. I am asking,
you are echoing a critic.
No, I am asking a criticism that doesn't exist. No, you probably didn't get my question. I asked you how far we have gone with that because you told us that it's only temporary.
If you allow me to answer your questions. Okay. If I told you, what did I say?
It's temporary. Yeah, and so I'm trying to find out.
And I gave a time for which we are going to film. As if for double track, did I?
And I'm still trying to find out.
And the time I gave publicly is the time I insist. 5 to 7 years is what I said. The records are there. And this is only our second year of double track. And if you are monitoring if government is doing anything, all over the airwaves, people went from school to see what we're doing. And that is why I can confidently say the largest infrastructure projects ever since Ghana became a country has been undertaken by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
In education?
In education.
How many schools
in secondary? Over 980.
How many?
It is not schools. Listen.
Please make it clear. The largest infrastructure.
It's the structures. Let me give you an example. The E-block schools. There are over 8 E-block schools that are part of the choice schools. Kids want to go to, they can choose. 2 years running, no kid has chosen any of those schools. 2 years running, no kid has chosen any of those schools.
Why?
And look, the kids decide to choose the schools they want to go to. When I decided to go to Prempeh College, that was the school I wanted to go to. I chose Prempeh College first choice, second choice, third choice, because it was Prempeh or no school for me. So if a kid has decided to go to Achiwata, don't tell me why has that kid decided to go to Achiwata. Don't tell me that. In this country, since the 50s, kids decide on where they want to go to school, together with their parents and their teachers. So the kids are not choosing those schools. You know why? Because the kids are not choosing. For some of those schools, we have had to decide to add what we call dormitories to the schools to make it boarding schools, because they were all day schools, and they were sited far away from the communities, and the kids were not going to the schools. If we make it boarding, a lot more kids will find it easier to go to school. So when we say infrastructure development, that is what we want to mean. For those schools that were built inside big communities, some of them are oversubscribed. I'll give you 2. Kaswa, Domikwa Benya, the E-blocks that were put there, I've had to add more classroom buildings to it, because there are communities kids can walk to the school. So what the E-track was saying is that if a school has a carrying capacity of 1,000, and we want to let 1,500 students go and fit into that classroom of 1,000, what then do we do? Let's admit 1,500. Let's split them into 2, 750. Cause social distances in the schools if you can make it, and also increase the number of people attending that school. So that is why, for those who know, some came out to say that it is one of the most brilliant strategies. Where you live, you don't vacate your residence 5 months of the year because you're on holiday. You live there 24/7. So the schools and the infrastructure are being used 24/7 the whole year. And that is what we call double track. It is not a shift system. Students don't lose contact hours, because actually students gain more contact hours. Because when we brought it to 6 months, we increased the number of hours in the day for every child. So more is being done. And that is the reality. So when people say propaganda, oh, when are you stopping double track? I ask them, or like the vice president said, if it was your daughter, would you say the child should stay at home?
Speaking of that, there have been murmurings in the system that head teachers who speak against aspects of the free senior high school get victimized.
How? Can you give me an example of a head teacher who has been victimized?
I don't have an example, but
you see,
but you have heard it, haven't you?
You see,
you have heard it.
It's not everything you hear that you give echoes to.
That's why I'm asking you.
Now you are giving an echo to it. Now, if I say that, give me one example of a headmaster. Again, it was an NDC retired teacher called something, whose history...
Called what?
I've forgotten the name.
Okay.
When he was even a school head, abused girls and things like that, who wrote a treatise to say that I've sacked some teachers. In fact, he mentioned one person's name, Nungwa, former Nungwa headmaster, called Salamat. What he didn't know, or what he didn't tell the truth to Ghanaians, was that when he wrote that piece, Salamat was working in my office. Because he was a measurement expert. And he was compiling all the data for 2017, 2018 of all WASI. I can show you books that Salamat had written for us to inform and educate us on how the senior high school was going. to tell us how schools were behaving. So if you go and write a piece and say, oh, I've sacked, and the person you claim I've sacked is working in my office, that Ghana Education Service, because of his knowledge, had seconded him to Ministry of Education, you say the person has been sacked. Let's give you an example. So it's not everything because somebody has said it. It makes it the truth.
Well, it was good that you clarified it. Don't you agree?
And probably.
Exactly. So it was good that I asked
but I
you.
would have better ignored it.
But it was good I asked you because now there's some clarification.
That person's track history was promoting ethnicism, tribal sentiments. Who had been even answered by a former NAGRAT president. So it is not everything that we should give the oxygen of publicity to color and taste the discussions that we're going. I would ignore him for the lies for which he brought up.
Okay, let's talk about vocational education. Tell us about some of the policies you have made in that sector and how it's going.
Thank you. I think that Ghana has had vocational and technical education since the 50s. In fact, in the 50s, almost every secondary school had a vocational aspect to this training. Where do I see that? For those who went to Achimota in the 40s and the 50s, there was a music school, there was a teacher training school, there was a craft place, and everything. Almost all the schools we went to. So it was part. But for one reason or other, that had been de-emphasized. Having agric farms and things in school had been de-emphasized. Even having play areas in schools had been de-emphasized. And we had concentrated more on grammar form of education. Right? We've realized that to sustain the economy better, it is these other things that we are not looking at that promotes the economy. How many hairdressers do we have in the system? Thousands. How many dressmakers do we have in the system? Thousands. How many furniture makers? And these are the jobs that give sustenance to a person for the rest of the person's life. Can you just imagine having plumbing issues in your house? For if the country is developing buildings, high-rise buildings, those key personnel are required every day. Is this your building? If the lift doesn't work, how do you go up? So now the emphasis is to bring all those sectors in play and let people understand that they are the ones who are the backbone of the economy. If people talk about German economy, that even in recession, it is resilient. It is resilient because of emphasis on technical and vocational education. And that is what the president's 5-year development plan set out to do. What we found in Ghana was that vocational and technical education was scattered over 19 ministries.
Okay. I need to quickly read this. I'm sorry, Minister, forgive me. So there's an awareness notification from Lifeboy, and it's some education on how COVID-19 is transmitted. The virus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets from an infected person and by touching surfaces that are contaminated. And so remember to keep yourself and your family safe by practicing good hygiene, which includes washing your hands with soap and running water. I'm in the studios with the Honorable Minister for Education, and he doubles as the Member of Parliament for the Minchia constituency.
So that 5-year development plan brought out a roadmap where all our technical and vocational education and training, scattered over 19 ministries, will be centralized for better coordination, training, certification, and investment. Lo and behold, the largest investment ever in technical and vocational sector has happened under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Over $500 million. We have invested in upgrading and updating the curriculum and the equipment in all the technical universities through a company in China called AVIC to give it modern equipment, train the trainers, and make sure that they are doing what they are supposed to do. We have invested in all the national vocational training institutions. There are 34 of that. Apprentices, workshops, head office, and everything, OIC and gratis. That cost over $120 million. That is ongoing. We have invested $478 million in putting up new state-of-the-art technical and vocational centers. That is not it. We are investing in re-equipping technical institutes across the country. This is to buttress the point that we want to shift most students to go and acquire skills, like the skills with which you are sitting here, the skills with which your technicians are working. It's not necessarily grammar skills. The best cameraman did not have to go to university to obtain a master's in photography. That is the government's efforts. That is government's plan. And that is what exists everywhere. You'll be surprised that last week we received a letter from a foundation set up by Dennis Rice and Mel Gibson, putting money in MIT to help in distance education and in vocational education in Africa. Ghana is one of the 3 countries they've chosen. Ghana is one of, and they want to train even more people in the media industry. And look at the names I'm mentioning. So Ghana is doing something right that is becoming a center of attraction to the whole world and is bringing support from friends. So this 5-year development plan has culminated in a bill that is in Parliament. Going to create a new service, going to oversee to education in technical and vocational education. Because when you go to local government, it's got the CDVTIs, Community Development Vocational Training Institutes. When you go to labor, they've got their social welfare schools. When you go to Ministry of Fisheries, they got the Fisheries College. When you go to Ministry of Agriculture, they've got 5 agricultural colleges. When you go to Ministry of Transport, they've got the Technical Training Center. Almost every ministry has something to do with training. Recently, you heard the people who went to the Ordnance, School of Ordnance and Mapping, shouting that the ministry wants to sell their land where they have been educated. The question is, in all these years that the students have been going through, what certification have they been getting? Zilch, zero. So government is bringing all together, making sure that certification through the appropriate, whether NAPTEX or NAB, is done such that a Ghanaian student who goes through any of our vocational training has the certificate that will let that show the competency of that person and let everybody know what that person can do for employment purposes.
Okay, let's talk about our tertiary front.
Are we going back to tertiary front?
Yes.
I thought we were. You said we should go to.
No, we were done with the vocational. I want to know what your key interventions there have been.
In what sense?
And what you've been able to achieve there so far. For instance, I want to know where we are on the impasse of the Ghana University of Education issue.
Have you heard it again? Well, no,
has it been settled?
Yes.
It has.
As far as I'm concerned, it's settled. As to people feeling happy about the settlement is a different issue. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have an issue that is on my table that I need to. The council had taken cognizance of that issue and was dealing with the individuals per their various cases to do it. And I haven't heard anything otherwise. Okay,
let's talk about some teacher interventions that have been topical. The teacher licensure exams, the mandatory national service for College of Education graduates, and restriction on automatic placement of teachers. I want to know what considerations informed this and how the implementations are being so far, especially the teacher licensure exams.
It's been going on for the last 2 years.
Yes. How has the implementation been?
Teachers are writing the exams. They're getting their certificates. It is only the license exam. It's only for those who have just gotten it out of college and those who want to get into the teacher profession. They are the only ones who are writing the licensing exam. It's not every teacher that is writing the licensing. So that is another erroneous impression that has created, that government says every teacher should go and write a licensing exam. It's not true. When you finish your law school education in either University of Ghana or University of Science and Technology, and you want to go to Makola, you write an exam, right? And after Makola, you write an exam before you are called to the law school, before you can call yourself a lawyer. Even if you go to University of Ghana to do accountancy and you graduate first class, You are still not an accountant till you come and write your ACCA or CA. Me, as a doctor, I went to KNUST. Finishing KNUST with a degree, they don't make me a doctor. It's when the Medical and Dental Council approved of me as a doctor. And now, the Medical and Dental Council writes exams for every foreign trained medical graduate before you are called a doctor in the country. So it's the professionalization of the teacher education. And it's not only in Ghana, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in a lot of places, they write the licensing exams. So when, again, the licensing exams did not start, it started from 2008 with stakeholder consultation and everything. And it has been instituted. And it was instituted with the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana sitting at the table. And it has gone on. There was a fear that the license exams will prevent us from recruitment. Those who had licensed and did national service, Mami, have all been recruited. So when I hear that is automatic recruitment, those, when you go to the teachers themselves, they have been recruited. They have been recruited.
So you have cleared the backlog. You remember there are some outstanding areas.
You don't seem to understand the issues because they are different.
No.
Let me finish. The only people who had automatic recruitment were teachers from the training colleges. No university graduate who went to do education has ever had automatic recruitment. There are 14,000 or more than 14,000 teachers produced by the 3 or 4 or 5 universities that do education. And never, no government has ever had it. It is only the diploma students. And there's a history to it. Previously, they were part of Ghana Education Service. They were trained by Ghana Education Service. They were not colleges of education or tertiary institutions on their own. They were part of Ghana Education Service. The reforms, long before we even had President Kufuor in place, had moved on from colleges, from training colleges, and had become colleges of education, had become training institutes, moved outside Ghana Education Service. Then more reforms had made it colleges of education till we got a law in 2012. So they are no longer part of Ghana Education Service. That is why 4 years before we came, the NDC government at that time had cancelled teacher trainee allowance because they were no longer part of, because that allowance was an equivalent to employing a pupil teacher. And the position of that government at that time was the fact that you are no longer pupil teachers. Everybody is undergoing training and you don't deserve that allowance. That's why the NDC government cancelled it after the College of Education, because they became tertiary institutions. And you are not paying these allowance to the graduates. Why were you paying allowance to the diploma students? My government took the position that, yes, even though we have upgraded the colleges, there are still problems within the colleges that demanded that we continue with the allowance. So the allowance that was paid was not paid the same allowance that was being paid for pupil teachers in a monthly form. The current allowance that we pay is paid on a semester basis. So during vacations, the allowance is not paid. And the allowance were paid to supplement the hardships or the conditions that exist in the colleges for education. Because even though they were tertiary, they were still living in dormitories and a host of other issues. What have we done? We have now changed the curricula of all the colleges of education, which process had already started before we even came to power. It was supposed to be ending in a 3-year diploma colleges. My government took the position is that, then why don't we make it 4 years and make it degree? So that when they graduate as graduates. So now, in 2 years' time, those who are going to graduate will come up with certificate in early grade teaching, or certificate in primary education, or certificate in junior high school education, with more content and more pedagogy to make them better teachers. That is the reform that we have done there. And of course, if you graduate with a degree, your start-up salary is like any degree who has been recruited in the civil service. It's far, far higher. It's about 3 or 4 levels higher than a diploma student. So we are doing away with the diploma degrees. And the last batch of the diploma degrees are even out of the colleges. The last parts are in the field. The issue of national service is an issue that the law was passed in 1974. That national service was insisting that the universities have no right to admit you if you don't have. You cannot even work if you haven't done your national service. So we sat down with the teacher training. Difficult to understand, difficult negotiations. But they understood that the fact that you are even a teacher doesn't mean, a diploma teacher doesn't mean you want to stay as a diploma teacher for the rest of your life. And that if you want to move on without national service, you can't move on. Unless you are staying in the teaching field. And also the new curriculum ensured that you have to do 1 year probation. Right? So we called them. We said, we'll put your probation period and your national service period all together. Instead of doing 2 years like the nurses do, the teachers do only 1 year. We've combined their national service with their probation period and everything. And in doing that time, if you pass your license, the license exams is done twice a year. If you pass, you will get automatic posting. And if I could show you some of their text messages, their leadership acknowledge and recognize the fact that they've all been posted.
Okay.
The only ones who have not been posted are those who may not have passed their exams. And I don't do their exams for them. The University of Cape Coast that releases the exams to the National Teaching Council for the exams to be conducted.
Okay, we have to go, but I want us to talk about our system. How would you rate or assess our educational system? Is it fit for purpose? Can we compete globally?
Thank you. These are the dire statistics we came to meet. We came to meet the statistics that, interestingly, when Ghana was part of the comparative test in the whole world, we had become last in 2015, thereabout, 2012, thereabout. It was very, very topical that Ghana had chopped last in an international competitive exams. If Ghana has chopped last, and when you look at the track record, because we're doing that exams every 3 years or something, you realize that our chopping last was an accumulation of our dropping standards since probably 19-something. 2000, we have been dropping. So it hadn't suddenly occurred. I mean, something was going dramatically wrong. If you look at the Anamar Mensah Commission report, they had identified things that were going wrong, but nothing had been done. Even when they had agreed to the commission report and had come out with a law in 2008 on the Educational Act, we had not followed through the implementation of that commission report. And 4 years or so after that 2008 Act, we were last. So it was because we had not taken the hard decisions that we needed to take. We were scared. We were scared about parents. We were scared about stakeholders. We were scared. So we were basically not taking any decisions.
Have we taken them now?
If we want us to go through, we can't just jump. Because of time, I might understand. Right? So what are some of the decisions? Some of the decisions was to bring quality assurance, like the Inspectorate Board, National Teaching Council that we talked about, National Curriculum and Assessment, that now they are all operational. Teacher professionalization, assessment system, that is why we brought the new curricula. We brought the new curricula for the students and the new curricula for the teachers. That after some time with the new curricula, we might see to improve things. If you chop last and you don't change anything, no matter how much you flog a dead horse, it is still dead. It is only a fool who will do the same thing and expect different results. So we have changed track, and we know that with time, the results will be yielding fruits for all Ghanaians. But it wasn't good. Only 2% of our class 2 pupils, in every class of 200, only 2 could read at the level of primary 2. We came to meet that. Our GCE and BEC pass rate for English and maths has always been abysmal. So we need to improve reading and learning and numeracy in the class to be able to improve everything. If we don't get our English and our mathematics right, every other subject is a borrowed subject behind these 2 courses. So if we can improve literacy and numeracy, we'll be on a trajectory of success.
Okay. Now, on a rather informal note, I'm sure that you've heard a lot of criticisms about the fact that you haven't been very nice, and I put nice in quotes, to some of your teachers. Yes, and you have accused them of embarking on politically motivated strikes.
Teachers, since I came, teachers have not embarked on strikes that I've called motivated strikes. It's not true.
Really?
It's not true. Nana, what people put out there now, Mami, what people put out there, what people put out there, and the realities are different. The teacher unions, you ask them, they are still in office, that which strike did they attend that I say is politically motivated? Actually, which strike have they, since the last one, I was touting our administration as the best in terms of teacher union relations, because we hadn't seen strikes. We hadn't seen strikes. If teachers decide to go on a strike because of their arrears that are accumulated 4 years before I came, that is not politically motivated. My anger was, you could have done the strike that time, you are doing it now.
So you had some anger?
No. Listen to me. My anger is that those who you didn't pay, you didn't do the strike against, and you are threatening us. It's not a strike. Because we have paid over 97%. When they went, the president gave them the opportunity, bring the teachers that you claim we owe. Because the controller and accountant general say he's paid 97% of the teachers who are owed. Bring data to contradict. As we speak, no data has come to contradict that. So the teachers, since I became a minister of education, has not embarked on any nationwide strike for me to make such a comment. It's never happened. So what is the reality? People saying things on behalf of, nowadays, people will put pictures out, people will put statements out, they'll write your name under, you have no idea.
Okay.
Does that make it true?
I have to go, but before I'm cut off, what legacy do you think you leave behind as education minister?
The legacy will be written. The legacy will be written. I'll leave that for the historians.
You performed well in
I'll leave that statement to be written by the historians.
Thank you very much for coming. The Honourable Minister for Education, Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and he doubles as the Member of Parliament for the Menchia constituency. Thank you very much for coming. Don't go away. The show continues shortly.
What they see.
Medical officials say the 2 cases of suspected...
No football, right? It is here then,
Hi there again, everybody. Martin Tyler along.
Where are you going? To restock.
How do you call the delivery guy?
On this match, which is going to have extra factor to it.
Hey, brah, you just leave it there. Pick it up after my quarantine. Babe, won't you go and stake your 590 Lotto today?
Me? Go where?
Massa, stay home, play safe, and stake your Lotto right on your phone, laptop, or tablet. Simply dial *959# or visit www.590mobile.com.gh and play your favorite 590 games. All your wins are guaranteed to be paid on the same day via mobile money. NLA 590 Mobile. And down Sam.
Good job.
NLA, powered by Kid.